My name is Russ Malone. My role in the city is city clerk, which handles city permits, the elections, the keeper of records, and many other things that we do for the city of Waltham. I was born in the city of Waltham in Warrendale. There was a hospital, a birthing hospital in Warrendale where St. Jude's Parish is right now. What they did was raise the hospital, move it back, and built the church in the front. And a lot of people my age were born at the Teresian Hospital, which is on Main Street in Waltham. Lived here all my life. And as a child, there were a lot of things I enjoyed, like organized baseball, basketball, and all that stuff when I was a child. And what stands out in my mind is the fact of camaraderie among kids. Kids stuck up for each other. They watched out for each other. They did a lot of good things that is probably impossible today because kids don't join together and walk to the ballparks. They're driven by their parents, and rightfully so, because it's a dangerous world out there. And we just made up our own teams and had a great time, enjoyed life. As a teenager, Waltham was like American Graffiti. Moody Street was exactly like the movie. And those were enjoyable days. My dad died, I was 23 years old. My mother was a widow with 7 children. And I was the oldest boy, and I kind of filled in and ran the business. And I got to a point where my brothers were getting older, so they wanted to get involved, and they did. So I said, I have to get into another business and let them do this. So at the blizzard of '78, I called my oil dealer, and he said, I can't be there for a week and a half. I said, there's room for another retail oil business in the city of Waltham, and I built it from scratch. I built it up to a nice 600 customer business, and when I ran for mayor, I sold it to Paul Douglas, and he's doing a great job. He's a wonderful guy, and he has a wonderful business. And the good part of the business was that there were people out there that didn't have oil for a couple of days. They had kids in school, kids that weren't taking a shower for 2 days. Can you imagine waking up in cold weather, being cold, and try to study and focus in school? Whether it's high school, elementary, middle school, whatever it is, it's not fair. So I would go in and you know, I would hope that I get paid, but if I didn't, I would shift them over to the Kennedy, Joseph Kennedy's a program, and try to help them there, and it usually worked out. So somehow or other they get help, and I was glad to do it, you know. I enjoy helping people, I really do. And that's what we do in the clerk's office. When they come in for a vital record, whether it's a birth, death, or marriage, it's important to them. And when they walk out with a smile, we're happy. We're happy. How I get into it was very strange, because I served on many committees, went out in the community and tried to help out the less fortunate. I was president of GWAC, I was president of certain organizations, I was chairman of the Boys and Girls Club in Waltham. We raised $130,000 net in one of the auctions. It was a lot of money, and I just enjoyed doing that. So I said, I'm sitting on the bench, why don't I get into the game? So I decided when there was an opening on the city council that I would apply for it, and I was nominated by Michael O'Halloran and elected unanimously. And that began to be fun because I enjoyed not being afraid to step into a situation like the threat of gangs in Waltham. We were instrumental in having a person at Waltham High School to check who was coming in. We did many more things that helped out the students at Waltham High School, and conflict resolution team was set up. I was the chairman of that. Public Safety Committee was set up. I was chairman of that, and I enjoyed diving into the city council. And Don't get me wrong, there are people that do that today. I wasn't the only one, but I had fun doing it. And I served for 3 terms and ran for mayor. Ran for mayor and wasn't beaten by too much. If I had turned over 200 votes, I would have won the race. However, I was beaten by somebody who was very popular at the time and knocked on every door in the city 3 times before an election. So that person worked really hard and was elected. After that, I don't know, there was an opening in the city clerk's office. So I submitted my name, and I was nominated and elected. And not long after I was elected to assistant city clerk, the city clerk, Henry Hoover, passed away. The clerk's job was open. I said clerk, but I meant assistant clerk. And I went from assistant clerk to be nominated and elected as clerk. I enjoyed it. However, it was difficult because we were taking steps backward when Peter Katusian had left and Henry Hoover had passed away. So it was tough. It was very tough. And thanks to the people in the office, we had meetings every day to make sure that everybody was on target, and we made a very good office out of it. It was very tough. People were scared, including myself, because we were handed this situation, and it was not easy. So we built it up, and everybody was cross-trained, and everybody learned to do everybody's job, obviously, and it worked out really well, and we have a great office today. We talk a lot, we communicate a lot. You know, if people have a problem, whether it's big or small, in the office, if somebody has a problem at the counter and somebody's getting a little unruly, bring them in the office. We do all of the things that any other department in the city does, except that we are dealing with people who are interested in getting information about vital records, their family. They may have just had a death. They may, you know, all of that stuff is important. But I'm the guy that puts out the fires, if there's fires, and I'm the guy that does a lot of the research on old records and for the law department and stuff like that. Between a couple of us, we do that. Look up old orders where people are coming in with some kind of plan to do something, and they want to compare it to a plan that we had maybe in the last 3 or 4 years. You know, how to write the advertisement that's going in the paper and all of that stuff. There's a lot to it, a lot to it. We create an agenda every council meeting and also for committee meetings. But my role is to read the agenda, and we put it all together, and when the votes are taken, we have roll calls, and we have all of that information that's important. If we're doing some bonding or we're doing something with the Department of Revenue, then everything has to be certified. If we're doing something with the building department that would change their mode of how they operate or anybody else like that, then we send them notices to make sure that if we do ordinance changes, then we have to change the book. If we do zone changes, we have to change the map. And all of that is predicated on what happens on the city council. And we have people on the city council that all bring a different perspectives to everything. They're all, you know, people that understand what's going on. And if we didn't do that, we would run willy-nilly in the city of Waltham and maybe have some public safety issues regarding, you know, zone changes or building permits and stuff like that. So we're proud of the way we make things happen. It may take a little longer than some cities do, but we do it right. I'm sure of that. I'm sure of that. That's the important part, that we work together, we communicate, and we do what's best for the city. And I just love to communicate. I like to communicate, and I think it's important all the way around. So if they had to look back, I hope they say that I was a communicator and got things done that way. I have a master's degree in management, which was a big help. And I went back to school afterwards to get that, and it took me a long time because I went nights and I ground it out and I got it. And I urge people today to do that, to go back to school and see what happens. You know, just. But those are the two things that I think qualified me. And a sense of caring is important. You have to care because you have to be patient. People come in and ask a question that really doesn't apply to the way you're going to answer it. So, you know, for instance, and it's kind of a funny situation, but I was on the counter one morning and a person came in and said, do you do secondhand car licenses? We do. You want to open up a used car place? He said, yeah. He said, I saw your Jaguar out in the parking lot, so I knew you were here. I said, first of all, that's a '99 Taurus. That's not a Jaguar, and you might want to get some information on cars before you do it. And I thought it was kind of humorous. And those things happen a lot. They happen a lot. You pick up the telephone and they say, what are the hours of the election? 7 to 8. And they say, how are you going to do it all in an hour? Which is not the case. So we have to go into a second explanation. But a lot of preparation with nomination papers, a lot of preparation with the ballot, a lot of preparation with special elections. Last year we had 6 elections. It was pretty difficult. But we train people. We train 105 poll workers for every election. Whether or not they know the routine or not, we still do it. Just a little story about my first year as clerk. It was 2001 on 9/11. So we had that terrible situation, and the Secretary of State called up and he said, impound the election, right after it happened. And I no sooner hung the phone up and the governor called, governor's office called, and said, we're going to run the election. So I called the Secretary of State and said, we have orders to run the election. Okay, let's run it. So we didn't let, you know, any of these crazy radicals tell us what to do with our election, and it was good. It was good that somebody made that decision. But crazy things happen, and you know, we're not getting the numbers that we should have at elections, and we try our best to do what we have to do. And part of that is to go to the high school and recruit, you know, recruit voters. And we were there a week ago, and we got 100 of them. These are kids that want to vote. They want to vote. And a lot of them are registering independent. So elections are critical, and elections are tough now. We have a situation where some people are a little bit nervous about having elections in middle schools. So what I did was post extra, not middle schools, I'm sorry, elementary schools, and we posted extra police officers. So we had 2 at each precinct. It's probably the safest time that school will have all year. But, you know, we're talking about moving them, and I really hope not. I really hope not, because it's a lesson in democracy. That's the way it is, and you know, we used to take probably 2.5, 3 hours to get election results in. We now have them in a half hour. We have the finest machines that are available, and they're a scanning machine, and they're accurate. You know, every recount comes right on the money, and we're proud of that. We're really proud of that. We're putting together a record center, an archive center at the Bright School, and the reuse committee got together and they came to me, have you got any ideas? I said, we could use a record center. So Councilor Marchese, who I believe was the chairman of that committee, thought it was a great idea, and everybody else did too. So, including the CPA, because they funded us all the money that we needed. And thanks to the council and the CPA and the mayor, we've made it a great place. And it's almost a poster child for community preservation, because it's the people's building, people's records, and the people's money. So it worked out fantastic. And we have 2 pretty large vaults that are climate controlled. The fire suppression system is A1. We've gotten rid of all of the asbestos in the building, and it's actually a Class A building. And I think there'll come a time where there'll be a person that can be there permanently. So if people came by to look at a record or a birth or a list of the people that were in the Civil War from Waltham or whatever, you know, I don't know. There's plenty of information there, plenty of information. Every record that we shipped over there, we put to digital. So we have it in the office. They're all PDF files, and when we want a birth, death, or marriage, we go right to the computer. Mother's maiden name will give you the child. Cross-checked in a marriage are the bride's maiden name and the groom's name, so you can go either way. If you don't know the groom's name and you knew her maiden name, then you could cross-check and get it. Death, same thing. Go right to the PDF, and we get it quick. We get them quick. In the old days, we used to have to go to the vault, take it out of the cell of plastic, go to the copy machine, which is not good for the record because you have oil in your hands, and may wrinkle it or whatever, but we'd copy it, and it took a little while, but now we have the quick fix of PDF, and just to be more transparent. But we're pretty transparent the way we are right now. But I think that's important. And we're bringing in a system whereby you can track special permits back and find out anything you really want to find out about a special. If we could get that to the public, it might be a good thing. We do a lot of permitting in our office, and some of the things we do are, as an example, we give hawkers and peddlers licenses, which are those little ice cream trucks that ride around. They have to be permitted. They have to go to the police department for a query check. That's nothing to do with us, but we need all that information before we can issue a permit. For people that are renovating their houses, that's the building department. And I'll give you an example, Bishop's Forest is under a special permit. If somebody wants to renovate their house and put a roof over the front door to create a barrier for rain or whatever, would have to go to the city council because it's an amendment to the special permit. You're amending the special permit. It's not in there. So if you're going to amend it, you're going to the city council. Special permits could be a floor area ratio, which is above and beyond what the ordinance says, and rather the zoning book says, you would have to probably, you would have to go to the city council. If you're, say you're in violation of your side yards or front yards, you would have to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And there are different issues for different permits. However, a full-blown special permit, i.e. Moody and Maine, you would have to go before the city council, maybe for floor area ratios, maybe for setting a pole in the street. All those things have to go before the city council. And that's the good part, because we look at the public safety issues that may be involved in that. And sometimes it can take a long time, but they're big projects. They're big projects. They will go to the council, present their case at a public hearing. From the public hearing, they will go to the committee of probably on ordinance of rules usually. Then from ordinance of rules, they make a recommendation, comes back to the full council, and it takes a full vote. So it could take months. It could take months depending on how big the project is. We have small licenses that we give out, and we have huge licenses that we give out. We have mediocre licenses that we give out for fast food. For instance, Burger King and McDonald's needs a fast food license. If somebody had a hot dog stand and they put it on private property, they need a fast food license. So Everything has a regulation. There are by right situations, which are in the table of uses in the zoning book that say, okay, under this particular area, you can, yes, by right, do that. If you're stretching a little bit on floor area ratio, then you have to go before the council. Fuel storage, parking, all of that stuff falls under us. So we will take a fuel storage petition and send it to the fire department. They'll okay it, get it back to us. License and Franchise Committee will talk about it, send it to the council with a recommendation. Council will vote on it, and that's the end of the process. So we do a lot of special permits, considering the size of the city. We take them as they come, and we do the best job we can to walk people through it. And if you walk them through the proper way, then it becomes easier for them. But if you ask the people that work in the clerk's office, there's an air about the department where everybody's enjoying working there. You can ask anybody that works there. They don't say, well, it's a tough place to work. It is a tough place to work, but we make it a little humorous. And we have fun. And we bring food in, and we take our break, and we eat good food. And night of the election, we bring all kinds of stuff in. And I usually end up paying for it because of the winnings. And just to get back to that, I donate 100% of the weddings to people that need it, nonprofit organizations. So when they say, you do 180 weddings at, X amount of dollars, that's a lot of money. Well, I like to donate most of it. And the humor, you get some people that walk in, they have jokes, they tell you a joke, or they do this, they do that, but a lot of it is serious because as far as the taxpayers go, the residents go, it has to be serious. You talk about death certificates and stuff like that. So we're a strong city. We're a strong city, financial-wise, and every other way. We have a great police department, fire department, and we do pretty well. There's a lot of great people in Waltham, a lot of great people, and we want them to go out smiling.